Welcome to Those Who Do Podcast, a podcast about people. I'm Zach Barclay here with the Nathan Lane to my Matthew Broderick, Tony Forsmark. David Feld and Shawn Obrien are Hollywood producers. The good kind, not the greedy, preventing actors from making a living wage and stealing their likeness to be later used by AI to lower their bottom line kind. They both work doing things like making sure money is accounted for, marketing is handled, crew are secured, and productions have what they need to move forward, and possibly purchasing birthday cakes, among many other things. David and Shawn join us to talk about their early lives in Arizona and Connecticut, respectively, and how they ended up in the industry. They also clear up a lot of technical and industry terms on their own, without being asked. Like teachers, except best boy and key grip. They wouldn't tell us what those were. Listen to find out why. This is Those Who Do, the producers, with David Feld and Shawn Obrien.
Jesus, you guys should get married. If you see a co-producer, they're somebody's brother. I'll try not to talk too loudly. I'll try and keep it at this.
My name is David, and I like to do production.
How do you have any friends?
We ask ourselves this question frequently.
Raw charisma.
We all signed contracts before we actually knew.
It's not like the opposite of an NDA. Like
He said he was giving us he wanted our autographs.
Yes.
So we gave them.
Are you ready? What is that? That's
Yeah, there's a high-pitched noise. It sounds like
a vacuum cleaner or a leaf blower?
The guy next door was doing yard work.
No, I bet it's a leaf blower.
probably.
As a Midwestern white grandfather, I'd know that sound anywhere.
You're a grandpa
I am a
already?
grandpa, yeah.
Is that a greatest American hero tattoo?
It is.
Jesus, you guys should get married.
It is. You are officially the fourth person outside of a comic book convention that's recognized it.
I didn't see it, but I would have.
Was I one of the four?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you recognized it. Of
course I did.
You don't pay it. You don't even know you have a coffee maker.
No, that's true, but I know that. I had a shirt with that on it, for crying out
So-
loud, and I pretended I was him for like some sort of talent thing when I was a kid. You know, those little square rollers that you used to do in PE?
Oh, yeah.
And I put a cape on, had my shirt, and sang the song.
And crashed into everything?
Huh?
Crashed into
Oh, yeah,
everything?
100%. But I sang the song. Don't tell me what I do. No.
This was high school? Or?
Well, it would have had to have been probably like pre-K, considering how young I am.
I think high school is probably more accurate.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was elementary school. So I told Zach he should roll up a character.
You should.
I don't even know what that means.
Well, I will show. I will show and tell you, and you don't even have to do anything. But then you'll have that experience.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm a bad nerd. I've experienced pretty much everything else except for D&D. I've just never had the opportunity.
Yeah, I tried it once last week, and I was pretty.
He's in. He's fully in.
Fully committed. Pot committed.
He really enjoyed it. He embraced everything.
But I mean, sometimes it's not. I mean, like Jorge did a couple different versions. So he did some Cthulhu and he did some D&D, and he's like, for him, he likes board games because he has the finite rules and
Yeah, I mean, I played Axis and Allies once, and it lasted too long.
Oh, Axis and Allies lasts
It does.
forever. That's it.
So that's longer than a D&D campaign?
It can be.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Because Axis and Allies, you can take 4 hours, 5 hours on
Yeah.
it.
And that's a very dry game.
100%. I enjoy it every once in a while, but yeah, if anybody's like, let's play Axis and Allies, I'd be like, I don't know if I have that time.
Do we have the time for that?
Right. And I guess the poor man's version, would it be Risk?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
Ish. Risk or Diplomacy.
Yeah.
Diplomacy.
During the pandemic, we played Diplomacy over our phones.
Text. It was
Hard?
a lot.
It was a lot, yeah, because Jorge kept having to take pictures of the map.
Like
And
we
then
were
you'd be
texting our moves to Jorge every night by a certain time, and then he was moving the map, sending everyone photos. You wake up to like 400 texts from like other people trying to like
make deals with you
and make you come. Yeah. Some people were hardcore. Some people were annoyed.
It sounds absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
It was
a while.
Like a month,
Yeah.
at least.
Because we did that, and we did what? Did we do werewolves?
We did werewolves, which was fine.
Yeah.
It was back and forth, but it wasn't
Right.
It wasn't as
and Sean and Jorge and Ralph and I used to do emoji
charades.
Just
wow.
And we started that before
for like that was way before. It's like so like try to guess the movie title by
So you started that before the pandemic?
Yeah, I can't remember what started it.
What is it like to have so much free time that you play emoji charades?
I was doing it on set.
Well, we also played Legacy Risk. Do you know what that is?
No.
So Legacy Risk is you have a board, and every time somebody wins, the board changes. Every game, the board changes. So the winner gets to name a continent, and then also put some stickers on the board that change the rules of the game. And then as certain things happen, like if 3 nuclear weapons go off, then mutants show up the next game or that game.
Yeah.
Okay. Eventually, at some point in time, there's a world capital that shows up. Aliens invade. And so the aliens are a faction.
Now, is this like an established game, or is it just something
100%. Yeah, it took us 4 years. 3 or
at least
4.
3
to 4 years. To
but
finish.
I mean, that was because they were coming and going, and they weren't in town.
Well, he was still
we would have played it a lot
so,
faster.
Yeah, so it would be when Becky and he were available.
But I mean, like this is a game that you can go out and buy.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. And then I can show you the board because once it's done, that board is dead anyway.
You took the board, didn't you?
So everybody signs it each time they win.
Oh.
And then so the winner gets the one who wins the most gets the board.
Yeah, so Tony has the.
It sounds like you guys
couldn't defeat him enough.
Would be the perfect.
Oh yeah, because towards the end it was all like, "Where's Tony? Let's kill him."
I can identify.
Like I said, that's Sean. I think that's Sean's.
That's normal.
Half of our games.
Yeah.
So we played werewolves the other day. It's like Tony. It's Tony. I'm like, doesn't matter where I am or not.
And we were both the werewolf at the time.
Exactly. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, I think that you guys sound like you'd be rife to have one of those championship belts made. I think that would be.
Well, that's what the board is.
Yeah, but you can't throw a board over your shoulder and.
You could, but I should put it up on display.
You're framing
prominently.
it. Yes. Prominent frame.
Yeah, when you change your room into the room that we use for this, it would look great in there. I'm pushing so hard for him to make that room a dedicated man cave room.
Well, it's close.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. You get it there.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
I'm telling you.
Once I redo the catio so I can get that thing out of there, then I'll be more comfortable with doing it because I don't want the Cavalier boxes.
No, I get that. But I mean, that's a 2-man lift, 20-second solution right there. It's out on the catio.
Yeah, but then the cats have to use it, and they dig holes in the curtain, and they get out.
Fine.
And I don't want to do that. It's fine. I have to literally replace my entire
They
screen.
go outside anyway. I let Figgy in when I went out for my walk today. He had been outside partying all night.
No, I let him out this morning.
You weren't up in the morning.
Okay. I have a dog that scratches at me until I let him out. It's gone.
What's gone?
The noise.
Oh, the voices.
No, they're still there.
Kill.
Those don't ever go away.
No, unfortunately, it's not kill. It's eat chocolate.
Wow, our voices know each other.
Eat ice cream. Do it.
All of the cookies and
It's
pizza.
good.
Oh, God.
There are sweets in the house. Eat them all.
I wish just once my voices would be like, no, that's enough. That's plenty. I'll let you get started this time, buddy.
Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Those Who Do, and today we are joined by... Don't do that again.
Why? What was wrong?
We're joined with by... anyway,
organic.
This is me doing my...
This is all staying.
Yeah.
No, but...
Now that I said that, it's all staying.
Yes.
Well, this is me being like... This is what I do on my self-tapes for auditions. I was like, oh, no, got to start over. And Reagan's like, come on.
Well, I mean, luckily, this is not the episode that we're sending out.
Right.
To be like, hey, please get us sponsors.
Oh, God, I hope not.
I mean, it was going to be until he fucked it up.
Yeah, I know. I feel really bad now. You guys were going to be our flagship. Welcome back to Those Who Do. We are joined today by David Feld and Shawn Obrien. Welcome, David and Shawn. Real quick, tell us what you do. David.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for being here, guys. We really, really appreciate you taking your own time and coming in and talk to us.
I hope we have something to talk about.
You will, I promise.
Thank you for having me. I am a producer, and I work in the film promo portion of the industry. I do a lot of marketing for movies.
Nice. So that's an even different level than we were. Our goal is to talk to people that do unique things, and hopefully not talk to same people over and over. So marketing is very interesting to me, and I can't wait to hear about it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and I'm Shawn Obrien, and I do the same. I produce film and television, more on the film side.
Excellent. And so we're gonna get to know you guys. We're gonna learn about little Shawn and little Davey when they were little kids, and where you grew up and what your interests were, whether you're a Transformer guy or whether you're a G.I. Joe guy. We're going to really get into the meat and potatoes, because very rarely were you both, right?
Usually we go to that first,
Yep.
But because we dealt with this when we talked a little bit with the strike on another pod. Explain the differences in producers.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Just so the audience knows right up front, we're not on strike against you guys.
How long is this podcast?
As long as we need it to be.
Yep. So each of you in turn. So Shawn, you go first this time. Explaining your difference between what you do as a production person compared to not the studios, which are the producers, the money people.
Gotcha. Mainly, I am in. My job would consist of putting together the crew. So, if a job comes along, I reach out to all my friends and I let them know I got a job coming up and see if they're available. So I'll put the crew together. I'll be given the budget to allocate and figure out where that's going to be spent. Get the gear, get the stage. Pretty much just plan out the entire thing.
Right, and you are paid just like everybody else by the executive producers.
Yeah. You could call it paid, especially when you're the one dealing with the budget and paying everyone else and going, oh man,
that's how much
cool.
I make, huh? Okay, cool.
It's a nice small retainer that you make.
Yeah,
small.
Yeah.
And David,
before we go too far,
no, I know I don't want to go far, but David,
it's related. It's related to something you just said, and the listeners, I guarantee you, this is the question at the forefront of their minds: what is a key grip? What is a gaffer? And what is a best boy?
They're on the other side of the camera, but
well, we can't give away all the secrets.
I always love sitting in you're sitting at the end of a movie and people are waiting for that hidden scene, and they're like, there's always a chuckle every time. What's a best boy?
I've been sworn to secrecy, but I can tell you they are the best
of the boys.
They're not always boys.
Not always
Well,
boys.
then we need to change
Sometimes
this.
the best boy is a girl.
It should be best person.
Yes.
I agree.
But then they'd have to change the template on all the credits, I guess.
Yeah, there's going to be a whole industry overhaul if you go that route.
Yeah. Well, hey, it's time. Yeah.
If not now, when?
Same to you, David. Similar.
You know what? Funny enough, very, very similar. Just a different niche. But yeah, I do the same thing. I call all my friends and say I have a job. We get a budget, or I put the budget together. Oftentimes, Shawn and I would be what's known as a line producer, because we handle the budget line by line and make sure that we're accounting for everything. Oftentimes, there's an executive producer, which we unfortunately are not. They usually get that credit because they have either found the money for whatever said project you're doing, or they are themselves giving the money, or they just know somebody, like they're somebody's brother, and say, hey, I want to be an EP on that job.
It's usually the latter.
It can be on the latter. That's often the same for co-producer. If you see a co-producer, they're somebody's brother.
Somebody
or sister.
Somebody owed somebody something.
Very much so. Always believe the producer titles, question the co-producer. EP, LP, any other kind of producers?
Well, I mean, there is the
associate, which is
associate. Usually they're either a serious position like a PM that didn't get the title, or
it's the person who did more work and then
didn't get
any pay, so they gave them a title.
So give the associate producer a look from any project that you're looking at. They're probably
they're a hard worker.
They're the hard worker. And then creative producer. Sometimes in the advertising world, we will get these creative producers, and they just think up ideas. You know, they come up with ideas.
I'd be good at that.
Yeah. Yep. You'd be a great creative producer.
So when you're specifically dealing with the marketing, is it just, are you limited to, okay, I can dole out X amount of money to different marketing avenues? Are you able to pick?
The advertiser, the advertisers, when he says marketing,
I asked David.
I know, but they're working on specific projects for the advertiser through the marketing company portion of the studio, right?
Pretty much. So what happens is the marketing division of the studio, I'm under NDA for a lot of things, so I'll just say an example. Any studio they have a marketing department, and they're given X amount of dollars to spend throughout the course of the year to promote their projects. So they try and figure out like an average cost for these promos that they're going to do. And a lot of these things that they shoot, they'll come on stage, they'll bring the lead actors for the project, shoot the whole thing, and then they'll take that one spot and cut it down to like 100 different things that they'll put on social media, they'll advertise on TV. It just really depends on where they bought to advertise.
So with the stranglehold that social media has on pretty much everything these days, were you part of the industry prior to social media being a big deal? You know,
that's a great question. I was not. Okay. I've been in it post social media. Prior to this, Shawn and I had very similar jobs prior to the last 2 years. And then I signed on with a company as a full-time employee that specifically does marketing for film studios. We get an opportunity to work on a lot of the different movies that are coming out.
So now we can go back to formatives. What was little Shawn's upbringing?
Oh man, grew up in a small town, out on the East Coast. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Connecticut.
Connecticut?
Yeah.
I just went through Connecticut in June. The whole New England area is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love being out there.
It's great to go back.
Yeah, I think we did 9 states in 8 days or something like that. I would never do it that way again, but we hit everything out there. It was pretty great. So small town Connecticut.
Yeah.
Mom, dad.
Yep.
Siblings.
Yep. One brother and
some people didn't.
I was born in
a manger,
in a manger or a test tube. I was raised by scientists.
It is possible to have a single parent. Tony.
It is, but there probably was. I know, but there probably was at least
somewhere. A donor of some sort.
So it's really best if you would, going forward, be a silent partner in this enterprise.
I often find that's the case.
Yeah, it really is. So growing up, let me rephrase so Tony can understand. Growing up, it was a nuclear household? Was mom and dad together?
Yeah. And it was 80s, 70s, so it was very much grab your bike and go have fun, and we'll see you when you come back. Hope you come back, apparently. I mean, I don't know. Parents definitely had a different outlook on
for sure.
Right.
On what you could do and what you couldn't do, especially being in a small town that was like your nearest neighbor was like, a mile down the road. You could pretty much go anywhere you wanted.
Right. Yeah. What were like your hobbies and interests when you were a kid?
TVs, movies, cartoons, watching TV when you come home, but then, grabbing a bike and going for a ride and doing that kind of stuff. So,
what did mom and dad do?
Dad worked at a factory, and my mom worked for the school district as an accountant.
So, were you? I'm always fascinated because I was a latchkey kid. You know, did you have that? Like the key, come home, make yourself a little snack, sit down and watch some cartoons, and you had that moment.
Yeah. You got that. You got that time when you get off the bus, and you got that private time.
It was the best, man.
Yeah.
Like I just loved it because I could watch whatever I wanted and whenever I wanted, and mom and dad would roll in at like 5 or 6 when they were still together, and because I also had not a nuclear family where they were both together. See, so one lived in one house and another lived in another house.
You had a father and a mother.
Well, I mean, ish.
So just checking. Just checking. David.
Oh.
Same question.
Same question.
Don't copy my answer.
Well, it's going to be tough. I mean, it just sounds like this is the groundwork for creating producers. I don't know. No, mine was a little split. Funny enough, I was born in 1980, so I got a little bit of that feel. I was born in a town called Fayetteville, North Carolina. Sure. And I grew up in a little town called Dunn until I was about 7 years old, and it was very much that life. We got blizzards. My mom would kick me out the door and say, hop on a bike at 5, 6 years old and disappear, which we would. It was great. And then when I was about 8, we moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and totally different life.
Oh, absolutely.
Can't go outside on the regular. It's just not conducive.
You might burst into flames. You might be human trafficked. It could be either or, really.
No, this was pre-human trafficking. Okay. Just a little bit.
That's what you thought.
I wondered where those kids went.
There was that one kid in school.
He was a good kid. But yeah, so the second half of my youth was spent in Phoenix, Arizona, growing up in a little town called Gilbert, kind of a farming community that quickly became concreted while I was growing up. Strip malls, parking lots, the whole thing.
That whole area is really blown up.
It's crazy.
Population-wise, and just there's stuff being built every day. I lived in Sierra Vista for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember going to visit in Sierra Vista when I was a kid, and it was like the leave your doors unlocked, 25,000 people, and then I moved down there for a year, and it was like 70, 80,000 people plus the fort, and it's just like, what happened here? And it was just kind of a shit show. The infrastructure wasn't in place to support that large of a growth. I mean, still wasn't a big place, but like they were not ready to almost double their population in 15 years.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive what happened out there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I guess it's, if you have the arthritis, you go live.
If you can stand the heat.
But it's a dry heat.
Dry heat.
And so...
similar question. Parents, I have a nuclear family.
You had them? Okay.
Had them.
Oh, boy.
No.
This is never going to end.
No, mom and dad, both together, had been all the way. Mom passed last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Rest her soul. And, but it was good. Good upbringing. One younger brother, and then a sister was a middle child. And we're all doing well.
How close in age were you and your siblings?
3 years from my sister, and she was 3 years from my brother. So
that was sounded like a very planned out situation.
Mostly, I think my sister and I were accidents.
Oh yeah.
Were your folks creatives?
That's a great question. I'm so glad that you asked. Funny enough, my dad was a doctor, and my mom was a retired nurse. And growing up, they had always kind of encouraged the arts. My dad's mom was a Holocaust survivor who became a Spanish teacher, a book writer. She knew like 7 different languages.
Wow.
And she constantly pushed for the arts. She grew up a ballerina dancer. It was just kind of ingrained in her. So my dad is the less creative. He's basically Spock. And then his sister was very creative.
Wait, which Spock? Like Dr. Spock?
Oh, no, we're talking Leonard Nimoy.
Okay.
If Leonard Nimoy and Harold Ramis had a baby, that's my dad.
That sounds amazing.
Yes. He looks like Harold Ramis.
Oh, my God, that's great.
But he does have, funny enough, you go rifling through your parents' stuff, you find some books that they wrote when they were kids, and you're like, oh, my God, they're creative. And my dad's sister was creative. She played harp. She went to some school called Interlochen in Michigan that was renowned for music. So it's been in our family to go into the arts. And the same on my mom's side. Funny enough, my mom's great grandma was a script supervisor in Hollywood, and it was one of those where her parents were sick of their parents and said, we got to get as far away from them as we can. And they moved from LA to Florida, that's where she grew up. So, but yeah, there's definitely creativity throughout the family.
John?
My parents weren't overly creative. My dad was into film and television and was definitely enjoyed it and welcomed it into the house. So it was always present. My grandfather was probably the most creative in our family. He did a lot of woodworking, built boats, like those little boats that you would have in doll houses. And
did he put them in bottles? Because I still don't know how people do that.
I think he did one. I think he did one in a bottle, but he had them in these plexiglass cases.
Yeah, sure.
And the joke was always after he passed, like, oh my God, don't disturb the the boats or whatever. And when I was in college, my mom and my stepfather were moving out of someplace, and my stepfather had dropped and everyone in the family was like, oh, no. They wiped their hands of it. We're like, no. It wasn't us. So,
So he's cursed now, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah, totally cursed.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And then, so what led to where you are now? College? What did you do? Did you have your eye on the industry?
Yeah. From pretty young, I was interested in animation and film and television and all that stuff, and just in storytelling in the entertainment business. I went to a private art school in Columbus, Ohio, called CCAD, Columbus College of Art and Design, and I went there for animation. It was a backed Disney program. Okay. It was there were certain schools in the country that had this backed Disney apprenticeship kind of thing. So I went there, and within the first, I think it was 2 months of getting in. It was really hard. It was hard to get into. It was it was a tough school to get into. And when I got there, within 2 months, I was like, I don't think I want to be an animator. Because it's not just drawing funny little photos, little images. And also it was a very different, also I went straight from this little small boondock town in Connecticut to Columbus, which was a city for me, and meeting people from all over the country. Right. And I was like, wow, I have no interest in being with these animators for the rest of my career. And I worked really hard to get into the school, and I'm not leaving because there was no plan B.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, how do I stay and not be an animator? The school at the time did not have a film program, but they had a photo department. So I just quickly switched to photo and was like, okay, well, I'll do photo and I'll figure it out. And if I have to switch schools, I have to switch schools. But as I was there, they were developing a film program. They had video classes, and they were kind of slowly getting there. And I realized if I just stay here and figure it out. And I also kind of knew deep down that I didn't really need a diploma to go work into film. It was something my parents really wanted. They wanted me to go to college. So I was like, okay, let me just stick it out, figure it out, and whatever I get, I get. Luckily, by the time I graduated, the school had done enough with video and stuff that they took all the classes, so animation, photo, and they turned it into something called media studies.
Yeah.
And I was like, awesome. So I'll graduate with a media studies. No one ever knows that I switched my major 2 times.
Right.
But while I was there wasn't really any classes or anything, so I was just kind of making it up as I went. So I was taking creative writing classes and then convincing the instructor that I was going to take the assignment, but I was going to turn in scripts. Mm-hmm. And the instructor's like, I don't even know how to read a script. And I'm like, I'll teach you. It's fine. And you don't. And she was getting very concerned about it. But I was like, look, if I can just teach you how to read it, you don't have to change the assignment. Whatever the assignment is for all the other people to write essays, I'll take that assignment and I'll just turn it in. It'll just be a different format.
Yeah. And this is an A.
Yeah.
You may not know it, but this is an A.
But she was great. She was great. She was hesitant at first, but then once I kind of gave her a couple of scripts to take a look at, she was like, okay, I get it. And then I just started turning them in, and I took that class 3 times because I was like, at least I get to write scripts. So I just was doing
What a
that.
fun way to do it, though. It's like a build your own curriculum.
Yeah.
Like that would have
Yeah.
been amazing.
It was great.
Well, it's great when you're formative because you're not entirely sure, and to be able to have that freedom.
And you're also, because you're working with people who aren't really sure, you're getting pretty good grades.
Closest I ever came was I was like, look, I don't want to wear a dance belt. So is it possible that singer's voice for actors can sub for ballet? Like that was as close as I got to building my own career.
Yeah, because Iowa State had a similar thing where we changed into a performing arts department. So it was all encompassing theater, music.
Yeah,
all this other stuff. Yeah.
After I left, I had friends who had stayed in Columbus, and they were like, dude, they're like, those things you made up are legit classes now. And I was like,
It's part of the curriculum.
yeah, it totally is. Yeah.
It's weird. You go back and just find out you have tenure.
Yeah, they've got a whole, they've got a whole.
There's a plaque up there with your name on it.
You might have a retirement plan you don't even know about.
I get no credit for it. It's fine. I survived and I got out, which was great. But yeah, they
Shawn
have like
Obrien,
a full program.
Professor Emeritus.
I what now? Yeah, there's a whole account there waiting for you. And David, you went to a party school.
Oh, Jesus. Yes, I went to 2 universities. The first one is the notable Arizona State University.
Oh my.
Of the Big
And-
12.
Oh my. Yeah.
Of the now Big 12. Formerly Pac-12.
Yeah.
It was a great school. I'm not going to lie. When I went to school, I thought I wanted to be a history professor. That lasted about 1 semester.
It was just too exciting.
It was just too exciting.
Yeah.
And, honestly, I leaned on my folks a lot for guidance because I was totally aloof. And my dad brought up, you loved theater in high school and junior high. What about theater? I said, that's
Wow.
a great idea.
That's awesome.
Let's do it. And then I graduated 4.5 years later. Yes, 4.5 years. And came to the conclusion that, Dad, what the hell am I going to do with this degree? You liked film growing up. You know what? You're right. Maybe go to film school. Okay, that's a good idea. I'll do that. So then I went off to film school. Here in California, there was a school in Ventura called Brooks Institute of Photography. And I went there for 3 years. If anything, I got a degree and I met my wife.
Wow, that's important.
It is.
Yeah.
Very important.
Yeah, I'm sure your kids would think it's very important.
It is creepy how similar.
The stories are.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
totally. Because I met my wife in college as well. So that's like the other, like the same sentiment. Like at least I got a wife out of it.
It's
My wife,
When she was in grammar school.
Yeah.
what is wrong with you?
Well, I think you're rubbing off on me. I think what's
Tony,
happening.
do all your friends do this?
No,
I'm starting to
he's
see
the
a
one
pattern.
that's
I'm
being
seeing a
disrespectful. Yeah,
There's a pattern.
yeah, because in college doing a production,
He wooed her.
That's a word for it, isn't it?
I existed, and she was drawn to me. Magnet, like a magnet to
worn
steel.
down.
Like a moth to flame.
Magnet to steel, my friends. And so Brooks brought you in this area.
Yeah, so Brooks brought me into California. And once I graduated from there, you know what? I went the internship route. I interned at a little company called Crossroads Films, which is no longer with us. They produced a little movie called Igby Goes Down that starred one of the Culkins.
Igby? Yeah.
And it was a great experience. I got an opportunity to work with Wayne Isham, who was a very big music video director from the 80s. And then I got an opportunity to work with Mark Pellington, who made the Mothman Prophecies and had directed some music videos for Pearl Jam and the Foo Fighters.
Who were you interning under?
So at the time I was interning under, oh God, what was this guy's name? It was Joe.
What department?
Oh, this was the music video division. Great question. I was working under the music video department, and I remember I had to burn these reels. And back then we were still doing DVDs. I mean, I know people still use DVDs and Blu-rays at home, but this was how we got their reels out. This is circa 2005. And yeah, they had a DVD burner there, and I just sat there for days on end burning reels for Mark and
time.
Wayne and all these other guys. And then finally I got a chance to get on a commercial, and I think it was a pharmaceutical commercial. And that was it.
Oh, so the oxy epidemic's your fault.
You could blame me for that. Honestly, it might have been Zoloft. So,
Oh, could be good.
That's good.
that's a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah, there we go. That's better, right?
Yeah,
guys?
that's much better.
Thank you.
Sean, how'd you get out here?
At the end of my sophomore year, I had an internship with Universal Studios. So I came out here for the summer of, 96. So we weren't doing DVDs, we were doing VHS.
I still remember having my reels have to be on VHS.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here's my reel. And it was literally, it was a reel.
Yeah. So I came out, the company I was originally coming out to work for at Universal moved to New York to do a TV show. So I got to the studio and they're like, oh, sorry, they're not here. So like, we'll find somewhere else. We'll find somewhere else for you to internship. And I flew like from Columbus to LA just for the day. Like my plane, like I arrived at noon and my flight was leaving at like 9 o'clock
Was it a
that
day
night.
internship?
No, I was just interviewing for the position. But I ended up getting an internship with Perry Katz Productions at Universal that was housed on the lot. They had just done Flipper, and they were in the middle of filming McHale's Navy. So
poor Tony's sitting over here and being like, I remember those shows.
Oh yeah,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I remember we'd sit down in front of the council TV and we really
that's the funny part is both those things are from the reboots from the 50s.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'd be like, oh yeah, McHale's Navy and Flipper.
Jokes are always funnier when you explain them.
Oh man, Tony, I'm so sorry.
I don't know that this show's about interviews.
I can't do this anymore. I still love you in spite of who you are. Okay.
Despite what I do.
Yeah, what you do.
So we're back in the 90s.
Yes, in the 90s.
We're back at the wonderful Universal Studios. Flipper had just come out that summer, so we were promoting the movie, and then we were also receiving dailies from McHale's Navy as they were filming. I feel like they were in the Caribbean. I can't remember exactly where they were, but they were sending them in. I was just stoked because I was working on the next.
And what were you doing?
In the office
Okay.
with the producer and just overseeing production, daily stuff. So I was excited because I was working on the next Bruce Campbell film. Like, I was stoked. That was also before I saw McHale's Navy, but
It's not that bad.
it's not that bad. But
I mean, he's nowhere near Sport 9, but yeah.
yeah, those were my first two films.
Okay.
Okay, so you're out here, you done your internships, you're kind of getting settled in. What was the moment for both of you? We'll start with David. What was the moment that you said, okay, I'm here. This is what I'm going to be doing now. This is the job that kind of settled me and went, all right, I made the right decision.
Wow, that's a tough question. The one where I said I made the right decision?
Yeah.
That might have been like last year. I'm just being honest here. I think I fought through 15 to 17 years of just, I don't know if I like this. And then just last year, finally at a job where I'm like, I like what I do.
Yeah.
I don't hate this.
And that honestly is not that abnormal. We've been talking to a lot of people this weekend, and we talk a lot about imposter syndrome. Like, it seems like all creatives, everyone working in the industry at some point has this imposter syndrome moment of like, I don't belong here, or is this really what I should be doing? Meanwhile, they're successful, but it's just like that broke thing in our heads that that we all kind of share of, I've been looking at this from the outside for so long, and now I'm here. Do I belong here? That imposter syndrome moment. I mean, 15 years before you get over it. I mean, I'm glad you finally did.
Listen, I still have my moments. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, and that's interesting to hear. Actually, that's reassuring to hear that it's fairly normal to have that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's been anyone that we've talked to that hasn't come up at some point in the conversation.
No, I mean, it's kind of, 100% common for everybody but me.
And it's a pretty strong feeling until you're like, you know what, I think I finally made it.
Right.
So, but yeah, took that long. How about you?
For me, when I officially moved out here, because I did the internship and then I went back to school, finished my college, and then and then came back out. Was working in an audience department when I first got out here, where you're basically just sitting in an audience, just clapping and trying to make some connections. I quickly kind of got in with the people who were doing the audience, like coordinating it, and then got a job working with them. So then I wasn't sitting in the audience, I was coordinating it, and it was good. Doing that for a little while.
Do you remember what the project was?
The project that I was doing, it was a couple of different shows. So it was like The Weakest Link, the syndicated,
right,
with George Gray. What was the male version of You? It was like with Dick Clark and...
Oh, yeah. I forgot that even existed. Yeah.
Oh, the other half.
The
with
male
Dick Clark.
version of The View, like every other thing.
Well, now they would just call it The Alphas.
So I was doing that for about a year, I want to say. I was doing the audience thing, and it was kind of jumping from show to show, but it was kind of... I was getting over it. It's not what I wanted to do. And I was about to tell the company that I was done because I wanted to go into film and do more things. And I felt like I had made enough connections with a few people that I could maybe go down that road. And right before I left, they were like, well, our next job starting up is going to either be the Sharon Osbourne show or the Ellen DeGeneres show. We're not sure which one. It might be both. And we're not sure where we'll put you. And I was like, I don't want to do the Sharon Osbourne show because I'm so tired of like shows just being from week to week to week and not knowing if I'm going to have a job next week.
Right.
But I was like, well, Ellen, that could be a 5-year
stable.
That could be a stable 5-year thing. Like that could be a real show. So I was like, if it's Ellen, I'll stay. And with Sharon, I'm gone. And it ended up being Ellen. So I went in, built the audience department from the ground up with everybody and ended up staying at Ellen for, I think it was 7 years.
Wow.
Just about 7. I did, my last day at Ellen was the 1,000th episode. So I did 1,000 episodes of Ellen.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you hear 1,000 episodes, you know, there's no frame of reference for most people listening, like what that really means. I mean, that's a lot of episodes. I mean,
and it's live to tape and it was a hard show. And yeah, it was a hard show. It was a lot of work. Especially like season 1 when we didn't know what we were.
Right.
Or if we were like, I know it's hard for people to understand at this point, but like you would tell people what you're working on and they didn't, like I would say at the Ellen DeGeneres show and people would be like, I know who that is, but I don't know.
That's a good question. I mean, so what does that mean to coordinate the audience? I mean, what is that job?
Yeah. We would bring in people, we would tell people we were doing, especially season 1, we'd be like, we're doing a show called The Ellen Show and do you want to come sit in the audience? And it was a lot easier for Ellen than it was for like the other half and God, I can't think. Oh, Weakest Link. You have to like kind of coax people from like the Universal tour and be like, hey, why don't you come watch a live taping? But with Ellen, it was like a lot of people were like kind of interested. So we were getting emails from people saying they were interested in coming. So we just set up like a system where we were like booking people, and right out of the gates, it was unheard of because like right out of the gates, we had the first 2 months like fully booked.
Wow.
And then we really kind of knew from like the get-go that we're like, oh, and I was only doing the VIP. So like I was handling Ellen's mom and her guests, and as long as also the guests of the celebrities that were coming onto the show, if they had people who wanted to sit in the audience, and you know, guests of the EPs or whoever. At the very first season, it was 200 people in the audience, and for the first year, I was only doing VIP, but my people that were coming in were close to 100 people per show. Like it was like usually about 50 to 70 to 80 people, depending on the show. So I was handling half the audience.
Right.
So like our people were like, well, why haven't you called enough of the other people? Why are you just doing the VIP stuff? And I was like,
bless you. Thank you.
I was like, because it's half the audience. like people weren't understanding.
That's a lot of people I'm dealing with.
Yeah. And then once they did, like the EPs were like, oh, we're going to need to reel this in. So like then they started like overseeing how many people were requesting tickets. So it normalized. And I was doing the audience for about the first 2 seasons.
Oh, wow.
And then I started doing other stuff. I started PAing and then assisting and then just kind of working my way up. And by the time I left, I was a researcher.
Oh, for guests or
for guests.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Working with the producers to just, and I had wanted to do writing and producing, and I was looking forward to like producing with them, but it just kept feeling like I'm not going to get there because I was also an assistant. Well, not like the assistant, but like the on-stage assistant for one of the EPs who needed me to do stuff for them all the time and relied on me. And so it was really
there was
hard.
No air for the...
Yeah, and it was great. And I love that they respected me enough to know that if they said my name and said do this, it was done. But it was difficult to advance because every time I was doing that, the person who was supposed to replace me with the EP would come and get me and be like, he needs to see you. And then I go to see him and then he'd be like, go do this. And I'm like, no, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. The new guy's supposed to go do that, not me.
So sometimes you can almost skill yourself into a position where like you can't get out because you're doing it too well.
And I did. I left the show. I was like, okay, they were leaving we left our stage at NBC. We were at NBC for the first 5 years. Yeah, I think it was 5. And we moved to Warner Brothers. And when we were moving and packing up the stage at NBC, I was like, this is my out. Like, if I'm going to leave this, I don't want to move to Warner Brothers and get connected and grounded and fall in love with a new stage. Like, this was home for the last 5 years. If I'm going to go, this is the time to go. So I was like, okay, I think I'm done. And so I was gone for about a month.
And the producer called you up and said, can you come here for a second?
Yeah. And I got a phone call saying, you know, we've got this new program and we're trying to figure out some stuff. Why don't you come back and help us out? So I went back before the summer was even over. And then I was there for about 1.5 years, 2 years. And they hid me. Like they were like, we're going to hide you in the back. We're not even going to tell the executive where you are. like don't we're not even going to let them know you're back. And it worked. Like it worked. I think that break totally worked. But the program that they brought me back to work on wasn't working the way it was supposed to. It was like a computer program that they were trying to like get a database of all the old shows, like trying to get like where a producer could punch in, you know, straddle table and every episode that happens comes up.
Oh, right.
Tape on it.
And because I'd been there from day one and had like a photographic memory of every shot that we've ever shot, they just wanted me to basically put my brain into a computer and they could just use that whenever they needed it. But the computer system had no capabilities of doing that. So it was constantly crashing. It was constantly not working. So eventually they just were like,
hey, Sean, when was this?
What was the application that they were hoping to use it for? Like, what was the application of that computer?
They were hoping it would be something, because there's a lot of callback on that show.
Okay.
There's a lot of callback where a guest comes back and they're like, well, how many times have you been here? Or how many times has Ellen said this or done this? And so it was just a way where the producers could punch in whatever the thing is that they were wanting to reference.
Gotcha.
And then it would just say episode this. They could just get a quick response to how many times that acted.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So as a research tool, kind of.
Yeah.
And would they like cue video from it? Like, hey, remember when you did this?
Yeah, it wasn't that. It wasn't that.
They would pull video once they knew what episode. If they
they could go to the log and find the episode and pull it.
Right.
Yeah.
So David, post internship, what was that?
So post internship, once I got the opportunity to get on set, I pretty much became a set production assistant. And for the folks out there that don't know what a production assistant is, just like in any other industry, you're a gopher. You go for whatever they need. So if it's fetching coffee, if it's...
I bet it felt great when Tony brought you that coffee today, didn't it?
Oh, it was so good.
Know your role, Anthony.
No, I'm not like that. I'm not a vindictive individual.
I felt it for you.
Oh,
buddy.
good.
Yeah. Good.
At least somebody's getting something out of it. But yeah, you're a gopher. So I did that. You know, honestly, I got in. I was a little aimless. I set PA'd. Somebody taught me how to drive a production cube. And what that is, folks, is... You know, you take a U-Haul van and you make it a little taller and a little longer, and that's your standard production cube. And you're driving that every day. You're picking up equipment before the day of the shoot. Then you're showing up on the shoot. You're unloading everything. You're responsible for all the equipment, all the gear, all the walkies. You hand it out to all the departments. And at the end of the shoot, you pick it up. You pack it into your truck. You inventory everything. And then you drive off, and the next day you return all the gear to the vendors. Now, I want you to ask me, how much does that individual make?
I got a good idea.
Dave,
Thousands.
Just so you know, we're missing like 5 surveillance.
Yeah, exactly. And guess who gets blamed for that? David does.
Yeah, it's going to come out of your paycheck.
And I just want you to know, each one of those surveillances costs $85, and that's your responsibility. Oh. But you're only paying minimum wage. Mm-hmm. Tough shit.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I didn't
mean to trigger anything for you.
No, it's okay. Those are deep memories. Some of them need to come up. So I did that for 4 years as a truck PA, from like 2005, 2006 to what is that?
2011.
2011. 2010, actually, because there was a defining moment. I bought a laptop. And that immediately put me in the office, which I was incredibly grateful for.
That guy's got a laptop, man.
He can do more than drive. Get over here. And after 2 years of doing that, funny enough, at the same time that I was office PAing, somebody had given me a license to first AD movies. And I did a few movies with, some B-listers or whatnot. And first ADing is hell. For folks out there that don't know what a first AD is, that is first assistant director. And what an assistant director does is he's the one that's calling rolls and cuts, and he's basically the director's right-hand guy or girl.
Voice of the director?
The voice of the director. You are if the director is the general, you're his second in command. And it is a thankless job. It is one of the hardest jobs on set. It pays really well, but you have no life. They say that the average first AD's lifespan is 55 years because their stress levels are
You're also in charge of everyone's safety.
So I was doing that at the same time that I was learning the office PA and starting to become what is known as a production coordinator, which is the right hand of the producer or left hand. I don't know. We can get into that later. And so I was at a crossroads, and I was still with my girlfriend of the time who, were we married? Yes, we were married. We had gotten married.
You were married to your girlfriend.
I was married to my girlfriend. She was now my wife. And often, as you do when you get married and you're thinking about procreating, you end up procreating. So I was
or at least practicing a whole
bunch. So we got a surprise in 2012 that she was pregnant, and I was on the path of either being in the office or on set as a first AD. And I was like, well, which one can I have a life with? I was like, I'm going into the office. And I gave up the first AD job, went solely into the office. And that's kind of what led me to where I'm at today.
Were you enjoying being a first AD?
Not at all.
Okay.
It was awful.
So it was a rough decision.
Because you also have to be,
so hard
you're the
today.
person making sure people are on set on time.
Yeah.
Making sure, outside of the UPM, the unit production manager, you're like the UPM's responsible for like everything going along the way the plan has been set. But once you're on set, it's the first AD who has to make sure that plan becomes reality.
Everybody's looking at the first AD, even if it's not.
Yeah,
his
they're
thing,
setting the tone. They're setting the day. Like, you making your day or you not making your day is 100% the first AD.
Yeah, because the director could come in and have his own thoughts or whatever, and it's like just implement.
Yeah, they're babysitting everyone.
Yeah. The director's not going to tell you where to set up a pop-up tent.
No, right.
The first AD is like, Video Village is here. Talent goes over there. Mm-hmm. It's a tough job.
Yeah.
And my heart goes out to them. And honestly, as a producer, you live and die by your first AD.
Yeah, like I said, making your day is in the hands of the first AD. So when you pick a first AD, you pick the best first AD you can.
100%.
Well, and making your day, correct me if I'm wrong, is, making sure that you don't fall behind, making sure you get all the shots that are scheduled for that day, making sure that your people are showing up where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there.
And like on a film, you have a certain page count.
Yep.
And you have to meet that page count each day. Yep. So it's the locked in schedule. And you can't, and once you miss a page or once you go a little over, it's the domino effect, and it just screws up the rest of the shoot. So you're really focused on not having that happen.
And the first deals with every side of it, like the actors, the writers, anybody that's coming into that set world is as well as the production team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even down to like, what time can we break for lunch?
Yeah.
Is lunch here?
Yeah, is lunch ready?
Is that a job that some people will do their entire career?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, why?
Well,
some people love it.
Pays a lot of money. Yeah, it's a power thing.
It's a power thing, and some people really enjoy it. I've got one first AD that I've known since I've started, and he is a golden god of ADs, and he will be doing ADing for the rest of his life. And He's good at it.
However short that may be.
Right.
Yeah.
Generally, like type A personalities, you think? Like
yeah. These are alphas.
Yeah.
You can't be a passive.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what time would you like to eat?
Because they come
All right. That's okay. You're not right. It's okay.
I mean, it's kind of in flux. I mean, our schedule, it's whatever works for everybody.
It's very fluid. It's okay.
They command the room. Yeah, and they have to.
Man, I would think that would just be so incredibly. You'd feel on edge all the time.
Oh yeah.
But once again, I think it has to do with personality as well. I mean, if you're that minded person, sometimes it doesn't stress you. You're just like this.
Yeah,
and there's no flexibility with some of these first ADs. It's like, this is what we're doing, and if you don't do it, you can leave my set.
Yep.
So
and I suppose some people do very well in a high stress environment. I am not one of those people. No, at all. No matter how medicated I am.
I feel like I'm not, but I keep putting myself in that situation day in, day out.
I mean, that's just part of it.
There's definitely that point in the production where you're like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this to myself?
Like, we're only selling Skittles. What's going on here? I don't understand. Why are you stressing out so much? And then funny enough, the more money is involved on the job, it's like the more relaxed it is.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Totally.
Pharmaceutical jobs, they're like, hey, we have walk around pass the lobster rolls for you to eat and, dessert trays. And
I never trusted though. My brain can't. My brain can't. I'm like, who's paying? Lobster rolls. We can't afford lobster rolls.
They come around with one of those little metal boxes and open it up and like, that's where the money goes, man. And you're like, wait a minute.
We just did a shoot on my birthday. And we were shooting on my birthday, and my wife was working with me on the shoot. And I was like, I don't want anyone, I don't want to make a big deal about it. I don't want to, I just don't want it to be about that. I just want to get the shoot done. And I knew she wasn't going to listen. And she got the producers, the executive producers to do a cake and whatever. And so they do a cake at the end of the shoot. And then my wife's like, well, this is really awkward, but the executives told me I have to give you the slip for the cake, so
slip for your cake.
You're gonna have to.
Here's the bill.
You're gonna have to pay. I mean, not you personally, but production's paying for it. But you're the one that's gonna have.
You're gonna have to find room in the budget for this.
Don't you just love that?
God, it's fine. And I'm like, holy crap! Where'd you get this cake?
This is a really expensive cake.
It was a really expensive cake. Put me over budget. Thanks. Yeah. Happy birthday.
Would have been happy with sprinkles.
It was fine. We were okay, but. Yeah, ironically, I had to pay for the cake.
That happens a lot, though, in our industry.
Oh, yeah.
Where we're given a receipt. Just the other day, I received a $3,500 dinner receipt. A dinner receipt for a client meal.
Can't even.
That was half the bill. Half the bill.
Half the bill and half the budget. No.
There was no budget for that money.
Yeah. So. That money just magically...
No, I mean, half of the budget you were given.
Most certainly.
Yeah. And when you're handed that receipt, you're like, oh, well, now I have to figure out where it's coming from.
Oh, 100%.
Okay, what in the real production do I need to now cut for this lunch?
100%.
Yeah.
So being on commercial sets and promo sets, any fun, interesting anecdotes?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, one of my favorite moments on set was as a PA, funny enough. There's actually two very memorable. I have a lot of memorable moments, but there's two that come to mind when you ask the question. First time was with the late Don Rickles. I was doing a commercial. Do you remember I think they still do them, the Snickers commercials where they
replace it with some older star. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we were doing one with Joe Pesci and Don Rickles. And I think this was like 2-3 years before Rickles passed. And he had a trailer he didn't move very well at this point. And he had a trailer that was like right in front of the set. It was a house location. And they needed somebody to assist him down the stairs and walk him up to the front door. For those of you that can't tell on the podcast, I'm Jewish. I look pretty Jewish. And I'm amongst a bunch of other production assistants. And Don Rickles comes out the door and he's looking around and like, Don, we're going to give you an assistant to help you out. And he looks at everybody like really maliciously as Don would. And he goes, and he looks at me and he points at me and he goes, you Jewish? And sorry about that. And I said, yes, sir, I am. He goes, I don't want anybody else touching me but this guy. This guy's going to help me. And I was flattered. I knew that my dad would get a real good kick out of that. And so I helped Don Rickles the rest of the day. And he was a very sweet man. He acts cantankerous, but in person he was very, very nice. And Joe was great. I have to give props to Joe Pesci. He smoked a lot on that set, but he was a really, really great individual, and it was a pleasure to work with him. And then the other one, both of these guys are late. I feel bad about this. The other one was Alex Trebek. We did some infomercial. Yes, I did a lot of infomercials in my days. Also, Oric vacuum cleaners are amazing. That being said,
you're not being paid anymore.
No, I'm not being paid anymore for it. I stick by them. And so we're working with Alex Trebek, and someone of his stature who most of America knows him and a lot of the world. And I think this was shortly after he had found out he had cancer the first time, and he was just the nicest guy, and he went out his way to talk to me, and I was just like a lonely set PA sitting in, for him, and he was really, really good dude. Yeah, those were the two.
How about you, Sean? Any or good or bad stories?
I can't share bad. I can't share bad.
Too many bad.
And it's funny because there's something I almost asked you about, and I stopped myself.
I actually wouldn't have had anything to say about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's
it
good.
Was all good.
Good. That's good. Well, that'll be a little puzzle for people to figure out on their own.
Yeah. It's probably not too hard to figure out.
No, probably not.
Let's see. So recently, actually, one of these anecdotes actually paid off recently. When my first, it wasn't a feature, it was a pilot. We after I left Ellen, one of the earlier jobs I did when I was moving into film was a pilot, which is like a unsolicited first episode of a show. So we were doing this pilot, and because I had just come from Ellen and was doing the VIP thing over there originally, my friend who was directing and writing this pilot was like, we've got some big names coming on. It was Paul Sorvino, Janine Garofalo, a couple of people, and we need someone that can kind of babysit them, just kind of be with the talent. Janine was coming in from New York, so we needed someone to drive her to set every day, spend time with her, just kind of hang out. So I picked up Janine at the airport, and then Janine and I were driving to set and spending time together for her entire. I think she was here for 3 weeks. So we got to hang out and got to know each other and got to be quite friendly. One of them had many conversations in the car, and one of the conversations in the car at some point had to do with student loans, and she adamantly was like, "Do not pay your student loans." She was like, "You defer that shit. You defer it. You defer it. You defer it." And I'm like, and at this point, this is like maybe 15 years ago. Yeah. I was like, I don't have a choice. I don't really have much say in the matter. Deferring is really my only option. But I did. I deferred my loans, and I always was doing income-based repayments, and which were hopefully not any payment.
Yeah, these are all things that are very familiar to me.
Yeah.
I think they're familiar to all of us.
I got really good at that. And every time student loans would call, I would have Janine in my head going, "Do not pay it." much to my wife's chagrin, I did so because my wife was like, "I'm going to occur that at some point."
We're now attached on our credit line. That?
It kind of sounds to me like she was like, "You're gonna die before me."
Oh yeah,
and
that was her biggest fear. Well, cut to. I haven't really told a lot of people this, and I apologize in advance because I do have survivor's guilt about this.
Oh.
But I did wake up one morning and find out that my student loans had magically disappeared.
No way.
What?
Yes way. Just maybe 3 weeks ago.
No way.
Yeah. Insane. It was a very weird thing to wake up to.
I bet you hit your 20-year repayment, and then it just hit you on the taxes a little bit probably, right?
No, nothing.
Really?
But yeah, you're right. It was 20. It was
because with the federal loans, there was some stipulation that if you didn't pay them back within 20 years, they forgive them, but you're supposed to be taxed as income.
And also, if you were in the income-based thing that I had just refiled for the income based, I think in 2018, right before the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
And I was in that window of people who were mishandled.
Right.
So just lucked out. But the very first thing I did was I text Janine. And I said,
You were right.
And I said, man, you were right.
She's like,
And if your little voice wasn't in my head for the last 20 years, I probably would have made some payments I probably shouldn't have.
and she's like, new phone, who's this?
And for all the government people listening, I was very... Yeah.
That's good. Cover yourself.
Yeah.
Did you get the letter? Did you get the letter that said?
Well,
Because that letter is amazing.
Here's the funny thing. I knew that the payments were coming up.
Yep.
And I got an email from my student loan saying I had a notification and I needed to log in, and I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Janine said no.
I know it's
Nobody
coming.
wants to log into that anyway.
No.
Yeah, I'm like, I know it's coming, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to handle it, but I'm not going to open it up and find out how soon it's going to be. And I think they also realized that I wasn't opening it up. So then they just sent me a straight out email that just was like, congratulations, your final payment was made. And I was like, oh.
I have a benefactor.
Yeah, which my wife was like, it's a scam. I'm like, they're not asking for anything. There's no
scam.
link. There's no anything. It's just telling me it's
Call
coming.
this number and get a Walmart gift card and give it.
A green dot card. Put it all on a green dot card.
So yeah, it was nice to have that come full circle.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Congratulations.
That's awesome. You know, she didn't give me that kind of advice. So
She did.
That's nice.
She's great.
So before, I had to go take care of my grandpa bladder, and now that I'm back, Shawn, you had made a comment that you were working with your wife on set. Mm-hmm. So obviously your wife's in the industry too then.
Yeah, she's an actress and a costume.
Okay. And you're married as well, right, David?
I am.
And is your wife involved in the industry at all?
She is not. She is a stay-at-home mom.
So that brings up an interesting question. And I'll start with Shawn. Being in the same business as your wife, do you find that to be helpful, or do you find it to be, some people who work with their spouses are like, look, man, like lots of other people get to go to work at different places. What has been your experience? I guess the more fair question is, what has been your experience being in the same business?
Yes, to both.
Yeah.
Yes, when I am working on set with my wife, it can trigger uncomfortable, especially when I'm the boss.
Mm-hmm. The one time that gets to happen.
It happens more. It happens more often than not. Because
outside of the home.
Oh yeah, outside of the. Oh yeah, totally. Oh no, yeah. You're absolutely right there. It does get difficult, and
Sure.
I try really hard to just be like, okay, look at it with the right perspective of is she upset because she's upset, or is she upset because she's being
Right.
So it does get hairy there. But the other part is that her working in the industry is good, because when I'm super busy, whether we're on the project or not, she gets it.
Right.
Like, she knows what the job is. She knows. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know what my job is, because every time that comes up, she'll be like, I don't get it. Well, and Dave can also attest, like, no one knows what a producer's job is. It's the most explained job that still isn't explained. But she at least knows when I'm like working 18-hour days or whatever. She's like,
do you have a computer?
I do. But
Okay, that makes sense
it.
then. Yeah, because
you got to have those.
You had a laptop.
Yeah,
and,
laptop.
Yeah, okay.
Change your whole career path.
Yeah,
That's true.
Actually, I do all my stuff on my phone. And it drives people insane.
That would drive me insane. What's the matter with you?
Yeah. I use my iPad, but I try to use my phone the most. But I've had other co-producers lose their mind. They're like, stop it.
I already don't trust them because they're co-producers anyway. But,
Yeah.
Whose brother are you? Whose brother are you?
leave me alone.
What does your wife do, David?
She's a stay-at-home mom.
Oh, you said that. Okay. Yeah. So that might help with the dynamic a little bit, because how irregular are your hours?
Well, now they're pretty regular.
Right.
Prior to me taking on a full-time position, they were all over the place.
Right.
It was freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of ways to work in the industry. One of them is you could have a full-time job at a studio, like Shawn did with Universal for a short period there. Or you can freelance, which is basically like an independent contractor. I mean, you're almost no different than a plumber or a home contractor, that kind of thing. And it's all word of mouth. You're making relationships, networking, making phone calls, and you find jobs that way. I don't know how we led to this. portion. Oh, you were asking about the hours. So the hours are all over the place.
Yeah.
You may get a call for, I had done a lot of music videos in the early days where we'd work 24-hour days. Ugh. And now that is illegal. Yeah. It's
not reported.
It's not reported, but that's definitely illegal. To say that
definitely benefit your career if you did report it.
Yeah, you would do very well. Actually,
there'd be a list of people around the block just wanting to work with you.
Well, we like whistleblowers in the industry. So yeah, the hours were tough, and it was before then. Before my wife was a stay-at-home mom, she did a lot of work as a visual merchandiser at J. Crew. So she had very early hours to go and dress the storefront windows and get the whole store set. So those first few years, we saw each other in passing.
Right.
And it was great. And, we would find time to hang out and whatnot. But definitely having one person at home, especially if you're going to have a family in the industry, is very helpful. It's like, if you're going to have kids, do you want a nanny raising your kids or do you want to do it?
Right. Nanny for sure.
Yeah.
My kids are monsters.
They suck. No, kids are great. But that was a big...
So there's travel, right?
Oh, yeah. So that's a great question. So the hours got better with the full-time position, but now there's a lot of travel involved because with any of these jobs, sometimes you have to go where the talent is or where the locations are. So I'm sure in Sean's instance, when there's like a new movie coming up, it may not be in town and he has to go somewhere. Right. Same thing with us. If we are doing a promo for a movie and it needs to be with, say, I don't know, Denzel Washington for Equalizer 3 or something, we have to go where he is. Most times, unless they can afford to fly them out. So there's some travel involved, and that becomes tough. It's tough when the kids are younger, right? Because it's just it's a lot more to deal with for my wife on her own, and we're not in a situation where parents are close. They're the closest family members 50, 60 miles away.
Right.
Luckily, we have people like Tony and Reagan now. For anybody who doesn't know, Reagan is Tony's wife. They'll do a whole interview on her. It'll be great.
See, I'm telling you, that is a great idea.
Talking to my wife.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
I said that, honey, I've said that from the beginning, and Zach was like, what?
That is not true. She knows whose side I'm on. We've been over this several times, that Reagan does indeed get me in the divorce. Whether that's a threat or a promise, I guess I don't know, but it's you are the second person independent without prompting that has said that Reagan would be a fantastic interview.
100%. Yeah. Very knowledgeable.
100. Right.
Yeah.
I'm the first.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, like, that's the travel aspect of it, is, especially with kids, is not necessarily even unique to the industry. I mean, I got offered a phenomenal job 2 years ago to work with a consulting company that would have required me to travel all over the United States, and I've got a strange situation. So when my wife and I got together, she had two boys, 10 and 7, that who I see, they're my boys. So like, I don't like making a differentiation between them and my girls, but now they're 26 and 20, soon to be 23 at the end of this month. My girls are, my oldest daughter will be 10 in 2 weeks, and my youngest daughter just turned 7. So we had a huge gap. And 2 years ago when this job was offered to me, I was like, I can't be traveling all the time with these little kids. And that would have been every job would have been a traveling job for me. And it just sucked because it was a fantastic opportunity, but I just couldn't
priorities.
Bring myself to do it, and now I'm like, especially since the little one's personality has really evolved, I'm like, man, why didn't I take that job? I need a break. They're mean little kids, man. And it's either I should have taken the job or doubled my dose of anxiety medication, and I doubled my dose of anxiety medication.
So when you go to another location, in your particular case, and for Sean as well, are you, because it costs money to bring the talent in, are you hiring locally then most of the time?
Yeah. Most often.
So that's an added thing for you guys to find out what the resources are in that area, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
It hasn't happened to me as much.
Mm-hmm.
as a reason, because you did some traveling in the past, no?
I have, but yeah, it's most of my stuff has been in LA.
In the area.
Okay.
So it hasn't really affected me.
Oh, interesting. So when I was freelancing, it wasn't as common, because as freelancers, they just hire, like you said, they'd hire the freelancers locally and crew it up that way. As soon as I was in-house with this company and sort of in a producery role, I'd have to find these local crew members. And it's interesting how you go about doing that, right? Most of our industry is word of mouth. That's how you get around. I mean, resumes are great, and there are corporate aspects to our industry where a resume comes in handy and it will get your foot in the door. But for things like on-set work and to really get into the dirt, you don't. It's word of mouth.
Yeah, you want.
Yeah, and it's
this
attitude
guy
and
is okay to work with.
Right.
Yeah.
This guy's good. He'll lift stuff. You know?
Just like you live and die by the AD, you live and die by the atmosphere and the mood of the entire crew.
Yeah. Which can, one bad crew member can actually set the tone for the whole shoot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a interesting experience to find crew
Because you don't have that word of mouth when you're going to location.
So
And
what
usually-
do you do when you're somewhere else?
So what's funny is when I got in the industry, I think the internet started to become. Forgive me one moment. Obnoxious dog that joined this interview. When I first started, whenever you'd get a travel job and you'd have to. No, let me back up. So when I first got in the industry, the internet started to become more prevalent and used. Like we were still using Thomas guides to get everywhere. So there was, in the commercial world, there was something called co-pros. It was, everybody remember Yahoo groups, and people make a lot of Yahoo groups. Well, somebody in the late 90s, when the internet started to take off with Yahoo, had started this group called co-pros. It was basically commercial production people. Oh. And so this thing's been going for so long that there's a long record of crew members from all sorts of different states, a lot of email threads that will say ISO, which means in search of. And you follow that. And a lot of times you could go down that road, or on there's Facebook groups too that deal with TV and film crew.
Wow.
And you start to track down who are the most notable individuals in their different cities. And oftentimes, like say you get Jackson Hole, Wyoming, there may not be a thread for that, but call somebody else in a nearby state, maybe like Montana, and you might find a crew member that works both states, which is funny. Like you'd think people would be isolated to just their state, but I know a lot of people that they'll work locally in like 3 or 4 different states just because they know the crew. And it's an interesting experience. You'll hit a lot of duds. You'll blacklist a lot of people because they won't be good. But then you find a lot of pleasant surprises.
Yeah. Hell of a carpenter does way too much meth.
Yes, he does way too much meth. And you got to make those notes. Sometimes it's the only art guy in like 3 counties.
Or do you ever get the one where like, no, I can do this, and they get there and they have no clue what they're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
Had that in Vegas.
You always have one.
Yes, there's going to be one.
There's always one.
And the local coordinator will typically say, I've never worked with this person before, but they were recommended to me.
Red flag.
I mean, how hard can welding really be?
You'd be surprised.
Especially when you're talking about Best Boys.
I don't know what that means.
That secret will go with us to our grades. What about you, Sean? What's your experience with out of state?
Out of state, I've only had it a couple times, and I found, like you said, you find one, like your coordinator or someone, or your UPN that you trust, and you kind of like if you find a good person out there, like where you're going to, you can kind of put a little faith in. Okay, I found somebody I trust.
Yeah,
and fingers crossed, and let's see how it goes. And it's always harder because you're used to your team, your group, and you try to bring as many of them as you can.
Right. Within the budget, because then that costs.
Yeah.
Travel is expensive.
Travel is
and housing,
lodging, and it's rough.
Imagine if you traveled to do, like, for example, an internet radio show that doesn't make any money. Imagine what that's like.
I don't know what you mean.
I know a guy, and talked to him once about it. He's a little forlorn, but he's going to get over it.
You should give him some sound advice.
Yeah.
Call Janine. What would she do?
Yeah. Well,
what would she say?
I'm a little late on the don't pay your student loans.
Yeah. Well, there's advice for you guys, I guess.
Yeah, that's good advice.
It's good advice. It worked for me.
I have to give you guys, before I forget, I have to give you guys some props for how well you have started to talk about an industry term and been like, let me explain that to you. There have been so many teachable moments in this conversation, and usually we're like, can you explain what that means? But no, you guys have been like, it's almost like we're being educated. Like,
it comes with the hat. We're used to explaining what it means.
It's like, and I usually have to tell everything about what I do so people understand.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All I know is he sits on a computer in his house. That's
the movie that captured producing the best is Wag the Dog with Dustin Hoffman.
You were going to say Wag the Dog? Yeah. I was going to say Living in Oblivion.
Oh, that too.
That's a good one.
I always think of Dustin Hoffman just being so frustrated with not getting the credit. Not getting the credit for what he put together at the last minute.
All I want is credit. I want to be acknowledged for doing this.
Oh, yeah,
or Four Dogs and a Bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch those. I haven't seen.
Well, Four Dogs and a Bone is a play, so I don't know if anybody's ever actually done a movie or film on it. But
I don't think anyone's ever.
I don't think so. Well, guys, I really appreciate you coming in and telling us what you do and how you do it, and we really appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do appreciate you and what it is you do.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, this was fun.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad you had a good time.